Hi, it's Chris from Epix Systems. This video is all about adding new contracts to the system. It's one of those questions that we get asked on a semi-regular basis, usually around about April time when contracts are up for renewal. And the two questions we get asked are, how do we add a new contract where you've taken on maybe a different work type for a client? Or how do we roll over a existing contract to the new financial year with perhaps different rates assigned to it? So I'll cover both examples today and make sure that we look at the SOR lists and also the price lists, making sure that we get the right ones for the right contract. So we'll begin with the simpler of the two scenarios, and that's adding a new contract from scratch for a new work type. Now I always do this by stepping into the client wizard, and the way I step into the client wizard on my system is I go into the create and simple job. And then in the customer field or client field, depending on how it's captioned in your system, I would type the name of the customer who I want to add this contract for. So in this scenario, I'm going to use Epix Systems. And then once that's been selected, I go down here to the contract field and I click on the green plus button next to the field here. And this steps us into the client wizard at the stage of adding a new contract. Now, as you can see, we are now in the client wizard, and here we can see the customer information and existing contracts that are in place at the moment for that customer. So what we've got here is we've got a planned works and a reactive works contract, and these are the SOR lists and price lists that those contracts are linked to. So as we've explained in our video to do with the client wizard, you can step in here and edit or delete these contracts if you wish, but we're adding a new one. So we will use the information at the bottom side of the screen here, where we can fill in new details. So we begin with the contractor field, where your system might be split into more than one contractor. So if you've got companies or different divisions of your company spread over geographical sites or different workforces, you'd need to specify that here. However, if you are like a lot of our customers where there is just one contractor, you would just simply choose that. So on my question mark here, as you can see, we have got a few here. So I'm going to add this under the quality homes maintenance. And the depot, again, you may not have this one switched on in your system, but if you do use depots, again, you'll need to choose which one. So I'm choosing head office. The contract number, now this is the reference for the contract. Now if you are interfacing to a client system, the contract reference is usually very key, and you would have to make sure that that matches what's going on at their side. And if you're in any doubt regarding interfacing, you're probably best giving us a shout before you do this. Generally speaking though, the contract reference or number is a unique reference for this contract type for this customer, and it's used to identify it, and that's all. So we could simply abbreviate the one that we are adding. So I'm going to add us a projects contract to this system now. So I'm going to follow my naming convention that I've already used here, and I'm just going to simply say Epix-PRO. And this is a unique one, so we're okay there. So we can then go on to the contract field here. Now the contract field itself is just the description of the contract. So as you can see what I've done already on these two, I'm going to replicate that for projects. The price list, this is the prices that you want available when you're adding sales lines on jobs for this contract. And so you can have, as you can see here, different price lists hanging off the same SOR list. So we would choose that from the question mark there. We can pick the most appropriate price list. There will be a separate video on how to add new price lists and to make changes to those. The start date and end date, that's when you want to work this contract from. So it may be that you're doing this from the 1st of April, it could just be from now. So I'm going to go from the 1st of July, and I'm going to make this run until the end of the financial year of next year. So if I put that in as 2021. The invoice terms is the payment terms that will show on the sales invoice that you generate from a job on this contract. So if you want it set to 30 days, you would type 30. If you wanted 28, you'd just simply put that instead. The tick boxes below the invoice terms, we've got charge by secondary ref. Now that is going to be different perhaps in your system because it's all to do with how you've got your additional references captioned. So to show you what that is, if I go back to creating a simple job, the secondary ref in my system is this one here. It's the one below the job number, which could be customer number. It's usually an additional reference or an additional order number. So if you want that captured on this particular contract and you need it to be shown on invoicing, then charge by secondary ref will make sure that that secondary reference appears on the invoice, and this one here will make sure that when you log the job, you are asked to put the secondary reference in. It's a mandatory field by making it mandatory here. I'm going to take those off for now. The archived tick box we won't need right now because that will archive the contract. It does the same thing as deleting it from here. It will archive it so you can't use it. And finally, the section down here at the bottom is all about how you want to copy your assets or link it to work types. So where you've got contracts already in place, you can copy the assets or sites or properties from those existing contracts so that you can use those with this contract. So I would like to bring across my planned works assets, so I could press copy, and that will then copy them to allow me to raise a job for those 3 assets on this new contract when I create it. Move will move them from this contract to this one. Work types, again, we've discussed this in the client wizard, but this is all to do with planned scheduled works, and if you've got any work plans set up, then these are the work types that will link to those work plans. So if this was a gas servicing contract, I would probably want to link it to that work type, but in this step I'll leave that. So once I'm done with all my fields here, I simply press the green add button. The screen will refresh with a message at the top to say the contract was created, and as you can see, our new contract has been created here. And now when I come out of the client wizard and I step back here, if I click on the question mark for my contract field, I can now raise a job against the new project's contract. So that was how you add a new contract on existing prices to the system, and we didn't make any changes to the SOR lists or the price lists. So what I'd like to show you now is a similar scenario, but where we alter the SOR list that we can use and therefore select a different price list. So we'll start afresh by pressing the home button to refresh our system and take us back to the dashboard, and then we'll press create simple job again to step into our client wizard. Again, selecting our customer and then stepping into the client wizard here. That takes us into the contract screen again, and as we can see, the one we've just made here. And what we're going to do is we're going to now look at changing the SOR list from the one here that we're using to a different one, maybe one we've just created or one that we're using for somebody else, and we're going to then link the contract that we're going to create to that list with a different price list of the ones you can see here. So as you can see, the price lists that we've got in place here, if we click on the question mark, we've got 3 that we can use, and these 3 are ones that have been linked to the SOR list codes with bonus. But if we want a different price plan, we can then step backwards in the client wizard and we go back to the client setup. So clicking here takes us to the screen where we can modify the client, and the field for SOR list, which is obviously pre-populated with the one that we're using, we can then change by typing it or searching. So I'm going to go with codes without bonus, and then I'm going to press update. If I then press continue to step forwards back into the contract step, now our price lists that we can see available are the ones that are linked to the codes without bonus list. So again, filling in our contractor field and the depot, the contract number, so I'm going to go with Epix again, and I'm going to call this one quotes, and the price list, if I press the question mark again, I'm going to choose the A Property Services list. Again, the start date and the end date. Our invoice terms can be changed if you wish, and again the references here, and I'd like to copy our assets over from here again and press add. And now, as you can see on the table of results here, the one that we've just added is linked to the SOR list, codes without bonus, and the price list is this one. So that's how you link an SOR list to a contract. You have to step back to the client setup, change it to the list that you want to use, then step back into contract to create it, selecting the appropriate price list. Bearing in mind though, if you do want to add a new contract again that links to one of these ones here, you will need to step back into the client and put this back to where it was, so that when you then go back and create your new contract in this screen here, the prices are the ones that you need. I hope you found that video useful. If you do want to see how to create SORs and also create new price lists, then do see our other video on that. As ever, any questions about anything you've seen, do give us a shout.